Today, really, it's all about the brand marketing outside of Amazon. You can't just put a product on Amazon and expect it to move. No, there's nothing special, unique. I think you kind of just want to start small with whatever you do and grow it.
For now, like, why don't you tell me about yourself a little bit? Like, give me some, what is your background and where were you before Pete and Pedro, and how did you get involved, and how far back do you got involved with Pete and Pedro?
Yeah, so I'm the marketing director at Pete and Pedro. Been with them for about 5 years or so, and basically I was working with a company called Grooming Lounge for over 10 years. So I was in similar space, and basically Grooming Lounge was kind of like the OG of men's grooming. And we had done a sponsorship deal with Aaron, the founder of Pete and Pedro, and basically he was kind of the OG of the YouTube space. So basically stayed in touch with Aaron, a great kind of networking type of thing, and basically over the years just did some deals and communicated, and his Pete and Pedro got bigger, and he eventually was looking for somebody to kind of run the company, and basically he was like, Mike would be the perfect, hopefully, person for the job. So, I've been in the online space for almost 20 years now. So I graduated, got my MBA. So basically been doing online marketing for almost 20 years. And it's been a good run, and Pete and Pedro has been a good opportunity.
Nice. Now, how much involved are you in the making of like the design or the product research and some of that stuff? Like, how much involved are you with the product?
I mean, I'm very involved, so pretty much all the key decision making is coming from me and Aaron at the high level. So brand development, product development, all that stuff. Some of the products we've had for a long time. So, I wasn't there obviously from the day one, but anything from since I've started, which is like half the products, you know, those I play a key role on development and so forth.
Do you know how like the idea started initially? Do you know how they came up with the product?
Yeah, well, I mean, Aaron, had his YouTube channel. He had solid hair, and he basically was looking to start up a brand. And one of his friends owned a barber shop slash salon, and he's like, well, you're trying to help people look good, and you have good hair, and that's probably a good way for you to go. So he reached out to a bunch of vendors across the country and basically helped develop a small little line, and basically for like $5,000 he started the company. Probably less. I think it was 3,000.
Nice. Do you know how he like came up with the brand name?
I mean, then the brand name was based off of his parents. He just kind of wanted something that was familiar and homey. So his dad's name is Pete, and his mom basically she used to have a little donkey farm, and his favorite donkey growing up was Pedro. So he basically kind of put the two together, and he wanted to call it Pete and Pedro. So originally the brand was a little more quirky. It's got a little bit more, a little bit less quirky and more streamlined and on that front. But that was kind of the shtick of the original idea and the name of the brand.
Nice. And
Yeah.
uh, did he like come up with, like, did he do some product research initially to come up with his products, or was it just like, how did he come up with the product idea? I know you said he's like in the hair. I mean, he was in the man's fashion and looking good. So part of that, like, obviously, like, hair products is a big part of that. But is there a reason why he picked that product? Was there like something specific that drew him into that?
I mean, I just think, back 10, 15 years ago, American Crew was, and still is one of the biggest players. And, their products are really good, but they're not for everybody, so a little bit different here, a little bit hairstyle there. And, So he kind of wanted to just see if there was better products out there that he can market, to his YouTube channel. So he had a strong audience following, and the whole his whole channel is about helping guys, look and feel better and boost their confidence. So if it's your hair, if it's your style, that was kind of his mojo, and that was just like a perfect fit.
Yeah. And do you have any idea on like how he started looking for manufacturers, suppliers to help him with these products? Was it challenging?
I mean, I think he had, his friend was, owned a salon, so he kind of had a little bit of a lead and some names and contacts, but it wasn't anything that you couldn't do online. So, so he reached out to a bunch, and this one, basically started sending some product samples. He tried them out. He's like, these are pretty good. He started with like 5 products, and basically, I think $3,000. And you could start with small orders. That was key. So he didn't want to take a huge risk. Yeah. So for $3,000, he got like 100 of each product, and he did a video, and boom, he sold out. So he's like, all right, let's reorder. So instead of being 3,000, he ordered 10,000. And a month later or whatever it was, he did his next video on hair, and sold out. So that was kind of the idea. So he didn't risk $1 million right up front to do it. You know what I mean? He started with low risk proposition, and small quantity orders, and the line the line kept on growing and growing.
Now, at the time, he already had his online presence, right? So he had people following him, and big fans of his message and advice. So that gave him a bit of an edge, right, in promoting and selling these products.
Yeah, I mean, that was a huge head start for for the brand. So marketing was essentially, let's just call it free. You know what I mean? So the hard part was to grow the channel, and that was really the entire marketing of the company, was him doing the videos for it. So for a long time, basically kind of till I got there, that was really the entire marketing structure of the business. So my job when I came in was to really balance everything, diversify the business, really build up an entire company so that we wouldn't have to rely on just Aaron doing videos, because an undiversified business is always one thing away from collapsing. So that was, his goal was to make sure that, if his channel slows down, then the business is still nice and healthy.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good point. Was he doing like any Facebook ads, or did he launch on Amazon at all in the first year, or did that come in later?
He launched on Amazon early, but the one thing that differentiated Peanut Pedro from most was actually we did not go into Prime for a long time. So he was originally charging $5 for shipping and not being an FBA or Prime for pretty much all the way up to about 2020, roughly. So for about 7 years, the product was just on Amazon, and if you wanted to buy it, you had to pay $5 for shipping. So and there's good and bad for that. The bad is, it's obviously not going to be high up in the searches. The good is, you're getting the $5 for the shipping cost. And part of the reason why he did that was because he had such a strong channel on YouTube that it would convert. So he had enough clout to get people to buy the product, that the main way to do it was through his channel, versus using Amazon as the key driver. So we flipped the switch to Prime like 3-4 years ago, and that has been a wise decision. But basically, it's much more powerful now. So his channel has decreased a lot in volume and views, while our Amazon business has taken off.
Yeah. Yeah, that's called FBM, which is like fulfilled by merchant. And basically what it means is that you can be listed on Amazon but you have to fulfill your own product, your own orders. So you have to package and ship your own products. So he didn't have a website in the beginning. He was just using Amazon as the website for his product.
That was PeterPedro.com.
Oh, okay. So he had both. He had
Yeah,
his page, his website, and he had Amazon, and he
yeah,
had traffic coming through to both.
right.
Nice. And yeah, so that's amazing. I mean, that's a lot of the startup stories of like starting initially with a low budget, and obviously I wanted to get, usually we get into the details of like how did he get his product photos initially, and where did he go through for UPC codes, and did he set up a trademark and whatnot. Like we go through all like those little details. But in this episode, I feel like it's a bit different because I'm not talking to Aaron. Maybe we can dive in a little bit more on the marketing side and some of the advice that you can give new sellers or new people that are up and coming. Um, some advice on like how. So one of the struggles like new sellers have, I feel like, is marketing, right? And how do you get traffic to your listing? However, with Aaron, he had the advantage of having his online presence, and he was driving traffic himself to the to the website or to Amazon. And one of the things that we do is like obviously we recommend everyone to start their own online presence, even if it was for the brand or themselves, to start talking about their products. And this is how you start initially driving traffic. But I want to ask you if you have like any insights or lessons for people who are starting, some tips or tricks that can help people in that area.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough business, but basically, you really need to build a brand. So, you can't just basically put your products in Amazon and basically be like, hey, I'm done. That's really just like the beginning. You really should have two websites, but you should also kind of treat them differently. Obviously, one of the key things with Amazon is the getting reviews. So they have that Vine program, which is great for products or brands that want to get reviews to their product. It's a couple $100 and you'll get like 15 to 30 reviews for your product, which basically will trigger Amazon's system saying, okay, this product has qualified into the next range of stuff where it actually will move up its chart on its pages. But at the end of the day, really it's all about the brand marketing on outside of Amazon to help move it inside of Amazon. You can't just put a product on Amazon and expect it to move. If you want to spend, thousands of dollars in advertising, that obviously can help move the needle, but your return is going to be low. So, you got to make sure you build the fundamentals of a brand, social media, building the presence. You should be starting to building that brand 6 months even before you launch. So really, getting your fans and your friends and your family involved before you even launch the product is usually one of the biggest things you can do. So that when you actually do launch, you already have a lot of steam. So that when you launch, maybe you sell 100 products instead of taking 3 months to sell 100 products. You're selling 100 products on day one. So get your social media presence set up, build your website, get your newsletter, information going. Really build kind of momentum is the most important thing you can do. Amazon, while it's a beast, it's not going to just sell it because it's there. You do have to do something to make it succeed. So advertising can move the needle, but if you're not getting the return, you'll run out of cash pretty quickly. So at the end of the day, I would actually start on your own website and use Amazon as an extension, and then eventually maybe that flips. But if you're just starting with Amazon, it's probably a losing cause.
Yeah, and I get a lot of questions on like how do I get started on social media? How do I start marketing my product? How do I create an email list of fans or crowd to start that steam? And we have, obviously we have our ways of like recommending how to do that, but I wanted to see if you have like any advice or input on that.
Well, I mean, social media, I mean, it's mostly about diligence. I mean, so, sign up for an Instagram account, you obviously want to create a logo, and every opportunity that you can do something, like when you're checking out your samples for your, potential product, take some pictures, also do some videos of it. You can also have a brand message as the founder. So anytime there's an opportunity of anything associated with the brand, you should post it, and obviously get everybody that you can excited about the opportunity. Yeah, website wise, obviously the Shopify is usually the relatively main game in town. Yeah, you don't need a magical, just insane website to start. You want it to be nice and pretty and on brand, but yeah, fundamentally having the product and the key things like a pop-up, so that people can sign up for your newsletter and that type of thing. So there's nothing that's impossible to do. It's just a matter of doing it. People need to put that priority way higher up on the list, because they're like, oh, I got my product, now let's build a website. But you should be starting that way before you even have the product. So, but getting your email set up is definitely a big one. That's, early on going to be your most effective, reach out and going that way.
Yeah, I also get asked a lot, like, how much should I capitalize on influencer marketing? Should I get influencers involved, or should I do it myself? Or what is your take on that? Do you guys get involved with influencers at all?
Influencer marketing can be really powerful, but the first thing is to make sure that you have a website that converts and that looks really pretty. So a lot of guys are so excited to launch, or so excited that they launched, that they forget that they actually need to have like a cool, good website. So if the website's not cool, the influencer is going to be limited into what they can actually convert. They might, if the influencer gets them to your website and then they don't buy, it's not the influencer's fault. It's your fault. Or maybe the product's not cool enough. So I would wait. The influencer market it's can be really good, but it can also be really dangerous, because you're paying a lot of money, for a hopeful return. Your better bet is to really go after like really kind of micro influencer people who are kind of willing to do reviews and stuff for free and for just getting the product, and then you can use that reviews and content to basically build a file or whatever it is, a database of UGC and user generated content that you can plug into, your social media, your website, Facebook ads, anything else you want to do. So, you can reach out to thousands of people on Instagram. You can use programs like Mini Social, which is like, you send out your product to like 50 people for a couple grand and they'll all do reviews and videos and they push it. There's a lot of ways to do that. So I would always start small on the influencer market and then get bigger. A lot of people, like, hey, I'll spend $2,500, 5,000, and basically they're like, get one order, and they're like really, really disappointed. And that $5,000 for them was like their treasure chest of marketing budget for this next 6 months. So, I would definitely start slow on the influencer market.
Yeah, definitely. There's nothing better than organic marketing, especially in the beginning, where you can do as much as you can for free, because social media is free. And you can do a little bit of ad campaigns, I think. But yeah, influencer marketing can be expensive. But like you said, I think micro influencers can be really good if you can do a value exchange where you send them the product and they leave you a review. I think that could help a lot more than
we still do that. So we're doing that right now. So the thing that you give up is time, right? But time early on is more valuable, is your greatest resource to reach out early on, and hopefully it's effective. Later on you can use money to pay for your time, right? So you got to get granular. That's always the thing. You got to do the dirty work. The dirty work is, as the founder, reaching out to 100 people on Instagram, DMing them, being like, hey, I saw your video on X, and that's like my product Y is like, you'll love it. Like, would you want to do a review? Yeah, most people don't want to be willing to get their hands dirty, but that's what it takes early on, and then eventually you can hire somebody to do that type of thing. But yeah, so I would stay away from any big influencer early on, and start small on that front, and use the user generated content from the smaller type of folks to keep building. It's a snowball effect.
Yeah. And let me ask you, do you ask influencers to post on their page, or do you ask for these micro influencers to do like video testimonials so you can post it on your social media page? What are the different types of reviews that you seek?
I mean, we do demos. A lot of it's like using the hair product as a demo, or a tutorial. That's usually the way we prefer, is like them getting ready in the morning using the hair product. Sometimes we ask them to post. Sometimes we kind of don't say anything and let's see what they do. Some guys, they won't do anything unless they get money, which totally understandable. And other guys love the product, and they want to grow. And sometimes, you always want to focus on the long term in these relationships. And really from both sides. Is what can we do for a win-win long term? Because if it's a good person that fits your brand, you could do 5, 10, 2, 3 years of work together. So if you feel like they're valuable, maybe you give them $100, maybe you give them $500. If it's basically kind of just like a one-off, that's fine, but you're not going to be as as critique of what they do. But every person's different, so you never know. Some will just do stories because they don't want to post it on their feed. Stories are not really going to move the needle anymore unless they just have a massive audience. So obviously posting it on their actual channel is more effective on that front. So, but it's there's a lot of noise out there. So the power of the influencer have dropped dramatically. Obviously, because there's so much more content going out now.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm curious, do you know how much like revenue was the brand bringing in the initial years, in the first few years?
Yeah, I mean, the first year it was roughly like $50,000 year one, and then like year two was like 100, year three was like 200, and then it basically kind of got exponential.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And that's only from like 3,000. The first year was like a 3,000, maybe $6,000 investment into the brand, because he was just testing out the products initially. And then
exactly. Yeah. So I mean he didn't even know necessarily he didn't think Pina Pedro was going to be this real legitimate business. You know what I mean? Now it's a real legitimate business, and he was hoping it would be. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
he didn't know what to expect. But his big thing is like, just try it. So Aaron's started a lot of different companies.
yeah,
And some have succeeded, some have failed, but basically like his big thing is you got to try. And it's never been easier to start something in these days. To start something, the hard part is the marketing game. The marketing game is the hard part. Kind of the old days, it was, well, how do I even start? Now there's so many more ways to start with anything. You can contact China, you can reach out to a manufacturer here. So it's much easier to start something. To create a website takes an hour. To create a website 20 years ago, you had to actually know HTML code. You know what I mean? So you can be up and running in a week, but that's not the hard part anymore. The hard part is the marketing. So there's hundreds of people selling hundreds of products. So what's going to make your brand stick out and cool is really the hard part of the game now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, can you give us like 3 marketing lessons that everyone can relate to, and things that can help newcomers create a better brand, or have a better brand presence, or relate to their audience better, like something that can help someone new into the game, because like you said, it's very competitive and it's overwhelming also. One of the biggest challenges is not only they're starting a new business, but it's like there's this whole mountain of marketing that you have to learn and communicate. It's a lot of it is communication and storytelling and being relatable, and you're trying to sell your product, through social media, through videos, through photos, and it can be challenging, but everyone goes at it differently, right? So I'm curious, like, what are some really good branding tips that can help a newcomer establish a good foundation for their brand presence, and maybe like small tips that is manageable for like a one person who's new?
Yeah. On the spot on this one. I mean, I think the first thing is just like reviews. I think it just seems so blah, but the reality is like you got to be relentless to get reviews for your product early on. So all those early customers can be your evangelists who can really push the word out there. So you really want to get personal with people as a founder early on. Reach out to them on your own. Just be like, hey, I just started this company. Like, what do you think? And if they're like, oh, I loved it, be like, hey, can you do me a favor and write a review? People, you gotta put yourself out there and get granular with every single customer. So if you're getting 5 orders a day or 2 orders a day, you should be reaching out to those people and talk to them on the phone, or just email with them just to see like what they liked, what they didn't like. And you can take that information and use that to create, new information on your website for your content or your kind of videos or whatever angle that you do. So, I think that part of it is, huge. The other thing is, make sure your website is solid is more important than the traffic and all that stuff at first. So you know the little traffic that you might have, make sure that it converts. So I think that's people kind of take for granted, like, I just want to pay $1,000 and do Facebook ads, and then your ad actually could be really good, but they come to your website and it's like, and then maybe they have trouble finding it on Amazon or whatnot. But I mean, I think there's nothing special, unique. I think you kind of just want to start small with whatever you do and grow it. Get content. I mean, I think, like I said, use your customers and see what you can do to build content on that front and on the social front. And then one of the reasons why you do want to build your social is if you do like Facebook ads and that sort, they come to your Instagram, and if you have 20 people, they're not going to take you as seriously if you have 5,000 people. So there's some magic number. People are like, all right, these guys seem cool, they're posting all the time, they have cool photos, I'll give it a shot. So and obviously you want to remove all the barriers. So it could be shipping. Shipping is usually a huge barrier. So depends on your product. Obviously if it's lightweight, that's great, because that's that makes it a lot easier to ship. So removing all the barriers early on is key. You can always make it tougher, but generally, if your product sells for 30, you could have free shipping at 35 because you want them to buy two. Or early on, just don't even have the shipping costs, just because you want to make sure you get buys. So those are kind of two key things. And anytime you do a deal with like an influencer or some type of promotion, make sure it's strong. If you're going to give 10%, nobody cares. So you want to make sure you find out that the deal works. So if you're going to come out strong, you can always do it again at a lower value. So 10% is probably not going to move the needle. 20% might not even move the needle. So if you're going to do a deal, really push the envelope to make sure that people the deal is convincing enough to get them across the finish line. So I think those are kind of some key things that people are like, oh, I'll do 10%, and you know nobody cares about 10%. So um, really come out hard.
What's a healthy budget for marketing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it really depends on how much money somebody's willing to spend on the budget. So it's kind of a tricky question. Healthy budget is what you're going to get a return on until that return in theory stops. That should be, your budget. So, if you can keep on growing the number, then and you're seeing the return, you should keep on accelerating until you get to that marginal line where you say, wait a minute, I'm not making any money off of my market anymore. Then your budget should stop. So
Yeah. Do you think it's wise to spend a little bit more in the beginning to get your product awareness out there, to kind of, push the ads a little bit and the marketing a little bit in the beginning to start seeing some traffic coming through, and then kind of, lowering it? Or do you think that there should be like a steady flow of ad spend and whatnot?
yeah, I mean, I think funnel, it depends on your pricing point. If your product is $1,000, you're going to really need to get them through top of the funnel all the way down. It's going to take a longer time to convince them to buy a new product. For a hair product that's 20 bucks, we prefer to really go after the bottom of the funnel. They're going to buy it or they're not. If they want to do some research, they can. And we have a ton of content, and we have a ton of blogs, which are all part of the equation. But here's a great product, watch what it can do for your hair. Buy it. So generally, I'd probably, brand awareness is, if you don't have a brand awareness is kind of weak. So I would, depending on your price point, lower price point, I would go for the sale. So brand awareness is a little bit more for the big dogs, where they're really trying to hit all the funnel points. But if you can get to the bottom of the funnel with an ad, you might, why even build the brand awareness in the first place? You can essentially kind of flip the switch.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, brand awareness can be very expensive, especially in the beginning. It's not worth it. It should be a long run game, I think.
Yeah, and you can use the orders that you do get to build the awareness too. So, so use those customers as your base to build the awareness. So, building a community is really important. I mean, it's 5-10 years ago, it was a lot easier. All the social medias didn't restrict, how many people would see your posts, and so we would do a post, and we'd have like 100 people comment on a post. It was cool. It felt good. You're actually like hearing people respond and start a conversation. But they obviously cut the legs off of all the brands, and basically they're like, if you want to get traction, you have to advertise. So it's a lot harder to build a community than it used to be, because fun or educational or whatever content back in the day, and when I say back in the day, like I'm talking like 5 years ago, would actually would get shared way more regularly than it does now, because now people might not even see it. So it's a tougher game now, actually. So the online space it's getting mature. You know what I mean? So it's a much tougher market than it used to be 5-10 years ago, where there was, people are like, what's this Facebook thing advertising? And few brands, a lot of brands took advantage of it, and they hit home runs because the Facebook cost per click was $1, and now that same Facebook cost per click is $2. So if they did it today, they'd have no chance. But back then they were killing it. So, and they would have done the exact same thing. So it's hard. It's hard. So this is I wish I could make it easy, but it's a grind, and you got to keep plugging away, and you got to keep get the messaging out there, and you got to keep getting good content, and you're going to get a lot of singles. Going for home runs is generally not a good strategy. Go for singles, and singles add up to a lot of runs. So that's generally the way to do it.
Mm.
Every now and then there's a brand who hits a home run, like a Dollar Shave Club, because they were the really kind of the first one to kind of do something fun with YouTube video and a brand. And then there's like a native, like who took advantage of, Facebook ads being, really affordable. And then they were smart and they basically, pounded the Facebook, so there's always going to be something new. So if you find the new or the cheap, that's a great way to go. But you have to be on top of that curve very early.
Yeah, I agree. They say success is when preparation and opportunity meet. So it's like when you're prepared and you find that right opportunity, that's when a lot of times, that's you get really lucky and you hit a home run.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to end this podcast. I want to thank you for being here. I would like to end it with what is a costly mistake that maybe you guys have learned from, or something that you're like, oh, we should have not done that, and it might have cost a lot of money, or made you miss out on a lot of money.
I think the big thing in today's age is staying focused. So like last year we launched a women's line, and there was a lot of things it wasn't all our fault because our manufacturer kind of decided to stop carrying those products, or they increased their model quantities. But basically, we put a ton of time and energy, almost like half a year, into launching a women's line, because the women's market obviously is 10 times bigger than the men's market for hair and skincare and so forth. So, but when you're a small company, you can't spread yourself thin, and it probably was a blessing in disguise for us, because we're nimble and we laser focus is really the name of the game. So one of the things we learned is breadth and depth of and the amount of products that you have is not the key anymore. The key is the depth of the few products that you have. So go all in on 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 products. Don't worry about having 20 products. Just go all in on your few products, and those will basically more than compensate for having a bigger line. Yeah, it really goes back to kind of the 80-20 rule, so 80% of your sales are from 20% of your products. That's really what kind of the key lesson. So we have our hairline, and then we grew to shave, and then we grew to fragrance, and then we have body. So now we have let's just say 50 products. But now, since the game's much tougher, we're being much wiser with our inventory. And so we're cutting all the fat, and basically saying, all right, here's our 10 products that we know are home runs, and stay in our lane. So staying in your lane's huge. So you don't need to have 5 products to be a very successful company. You actually only need 1. So yeah, especially starting up, Aaron will definitely say, you have multiple different sizes of its clothing, or maybe different types of the same product. So if you launch with like body washes, you're going to launch with like 3 or 4 scents. That's like a big mistake. You should only launch with 1, maybe 2, and just go all in on those small amount. So the key lesson really is stay focused. Less is more, and go all in on those few things and pound that messaging. Once you get too spread, it just takes too much time and energy and resources.
Great. That's really great advice. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. So yeah, like I wanted to know, like, what are some of so he had someone design it for free, the photos initially?
Probably. I mean, we use renderings. Renderings are kind of a good way to go, because you can really adapt them. You can always go get photography, where it's like a nice real shot, but we use renderings for our products, which can help in a lot of ways. But if you have a cool product out there, I mean, there's a lot of people who like to do photography. So we get reached out to all the time from like guys who, are into photography who like want to do cool shots. Um, you know, so you can always kind of reach out to them. One of our marketing manager started out that way. He just reached out to us and it was like, "Hey, I'm a fan of your brand. I like photography. Can I take some cool shots?"
Right.
And so that's what he did. He did that for about 6 months, and then I was like, "Hey, do you want to do some blog writing too?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll do some blog writing." And a year later, I'm like, "Hey, do you want to work for us?" And so now he's on board. He's been working with us for like 4 years. So it started as just can I take some photos for free? So
So initially, when he did the rendering, that didn't cost him anything for the photos, or was there a price there?
the designer charged money for it. Yeah.
Do you know approximately how much it cost him initially?
I mean, the designers, let's just say $100 an hour, but he could probably do it in 2 hours, a
Mm.
rendering, you know what I mean? So a couple $100.
And do you know where he got his barcodes from?
Well, I mean, now we do GS1, but originally we were doing like speedy barcodes and stuff like that. But the barcodes have upped their game, so now we use GS1. But there's websites like Speedy Barcodes and a bunch of those out there that were fine, but now
Yeah.
everybody's becoming much more particular. So you got to make sure you have a real GS1.
Yeah, that's what we recommend to everyone to go to GS1. So he initially got 3 barcodes for his initial launch, right? Because he got 3 products initially.
I think we had 5 products, but I don't, honestly, he might not even had barcodes
Oh,
originally. So, he didn't even care about barcodes originally. It didn't matter. It didn't matter to the business. Now it does. So, you don't really need barcodes if you're just selling them out of your own your garage. And you can fulfill them from FBM as well. But
I see.
obviously, it would be wise to get barcodes on them if you're moving any significant amount, because obviously you're gonna need them at some point. If you're not gonna need them at some point, then you're probably not making any money. But GS1 is probably the way to go these days.
Yeah, I agree. And did he like start a new LLC or a DBA when he first started?
LLC, he started a bunch of companies in the past, so for him that wasn't really like challenging to do all that stuff. He probably knew people, and he already had his YouTube channel, so
He already had an LLC.
well, I mean, I'm just saying, like he had a thriving engine, so things were in the works. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it wasn't like he was coming out of left field, had to do all this stuff. He had a thriving YouTube channel, and he was getting deals, and he had a lawyer, and he was talking to people, and ideas were coming in, and what could he do to build a presence on the influencers or creators. He was one. I don't want to say he was the first, but a lot of them realized after so many years that the best way actually to make money is to basically have your own brand, not just your channel. You know what I mean? So now all of them have their own product, or their own clothing line, or their own X, Y, and Z. So a lot of them fail. Most of them probably fail. But he was definitely one of the early ones to be like, hey, I shouldn't just do ads, and sponsorships. I should actually take this next level and build a brand. So, a lot of people have followed him on that front. Some successful, some not. But he was one of the few early ones for sure in the men's space to do that.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging, and especially when it comes to products that are that there is competition with, with hair products. There's a lot of competition there, so it's amazing that he was able to make his unique brand, his unique corner with hair products, men's hair products, because people identify with him, and to be successful with it.
Yeah, it's super competitive space. So yeah, women's space is even more competitive, so yeah, it's hard to stand out. So that's really your question for newbies is what are you going to do to stand out? So or why am I what makes your product better than the others? Yeah, really, you know what I mean? So um yeah, if you stand out enough, people will give it a shot, or you might have really a unique trait about your brand that other people don't. So but usually they're very similar, but you're better at marketing, or they're playing up an angle that really the other ones aren't playing up enough, and they're really hitting home that angle. Could be natural or it could be, you know, three times bigger, whatever. You know what I mean? So um but yeah, and then just managing your resources as a business is key. So um yeah, we're small, medium-sized business. So it's like it's if we lose money, it's Aaron's money. If we do an ad and I'm like, hey, let's try this, and it's bad, then I just, I just lost Aaron's. It's real money. It's not some corporate, money sitting in the bank. It's somebody's personal finance, bank. So that's where, it still stings when we make a bad decision because the person who's running the company is the one who's feeling it. So yeah, so that's the thing. So
Yeah.
if you're starting, start small. That way the stings, you can recover from a sting if you start small versus, if you do a huge sting and you don't have the money, you're gonna be calling on people to ask for money when you probably should have done that because you weren't ready yet, or you hadn't figured it out. But yeah, there's no it's tough, man. It's a tough game these days. So every
Yeah.
new brand, the stories that you hear, they're the minority. You know what I mean? So the most of the brands are grinding, and some do well and some do bad. But we've had a good run.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty cool. And one last question. Do you know how much he spent on like ad spends in the first year for Facebook and social media?
Well, I mean, the first year was probably zero.
Okay.
So, I mean, our ad spend, we're talking very small. If there was any spend, it was like just on Google, AdWords, like for brand. So maybe $5,000.
Mm,
Yeah, but basically very minimal for a while, and there wasn't any. If anything, it was just mostly Google for brand brand for the most part.
nice. Well, thank you, Michael, for being here. I appreciate your time, and I'll reach out to you if I have any more questions. But thanks again for being here and sharing all that information. I think it's really helpful and inspiring.
Yeah, man. Just let me know what you need, and if I can help, or if you need to do another one, just let me know. And appreciate the call, and take care.
All right, you too. Thank
Yeah.
you.
See you, man.